it is in the interest of everybody, including the businesses, to pay tax. Because the business can pay tax in two ways. You either pay the tax to the government, and government use that resource to provide the infrastructure that you need, or you don't pay the tax, and then you provide your own infrastructure at a far higher cost.
That was Nigeria's Honorable Minister of State for Finance, Dr. Yerima Ngama, at the opening ceremony of the 5th African Tax Forum held in Abuja from Wednesday the 15th to Friday the 17th of May 2013. On today's episode of Tax Matters, we're going to be looking at several issues in our bid to ensure that there's something for everyone to take away. We are going to, for example, be looking at cooperation on tax matters across the African continent. That is even becoming more and more important now that there's so much furore going on in the West, talking about the European Union and the Americas, about the antics of multinationals who are making a killing in turnover while paying little or nothing in taxes. We are talking about multinationals like the premium coffee maker. You know who we're talking about. We're talking about the computer giants. We're talking about the burgeoning social network platforms, all of whom are making a killing in turnover while paying little or nothing in taxes. For us in Africa, especially because we seem to be behind in understanding the antics of these multinationals, we need to sit down together, share ideas, and strategize. Then the issue of making life easier for the taxpayer by automating the system and ensuring that it is possible to make transactions, to carry on transactions, assessment, payment online within the confines of the home or the office. Lastly, on this episode, we're going to be looking at the duties and responsibilities of professionals, be they acting in their own capacity as business owners or as representatives of taxpayers. My name is Olumuyiwa Matuluko, and with me on today's episode is Christina Pius.
Hello, viewers.
You are still on to Tax Matters. For 3 days, Wednesday the 15th to Friday the 17th of May 2013, the Federal Inland Revenue Service hosted the African Tax Forum in Abuja. Organized by the International Tax and Investment Center, ITAS, based in Washington, D.C., USA, and the African Tax Institute. The 3-day event was on tax coordination in Africa. The forum took off on Wednesday afternoon with 2 technical sessions at which participants examined corporate tax issues and development, as well as measures aimed at combating the illicit trade in excisable goods. Later that evening, delegates were formally welcomed at a dinner party. The following day, Thursday the 16th of May, the African Tax Forum was formally declared open by Nigeria's Minister of State for Finance, Dr. Yerima Ngama.
Today, all eyes are on Africa because the opportunities are here. Growth in Africa has been celebrated all over. Opportunities abound, and various businesses are recognizing these opportunities, and the funds are flowing. However, we have a long way to go. People can come here, do their business, make their profit, but the government doesn't get the tax that it should collect. A lot of economic activities are taking place, but most of it is informal. And when you have this kind of business structure, it is difficult to collect all the taxes that government is supposed to collect. We are happy to welcome the ITIC and also the ATI to this forum. We know they have done a lot in the area of research, and they have helped a lot of tax authorities to reform and to improve. And I'm sure this conference will help towards achieving this goal.
Still on the essence and purpose of the African Tax Forum, Alhaji Kabiru Mashi is the acting executive chairman of the FRS and the chief host of the 5th African Tax Forum.
My expectation after this forum is that
we come out with the best practice. We learn from each other on how to improve on what we are doing, which is the essence of the conference. Bottom line is, how do we generate more revenue for the various governments with which they execute their day-to-day projects? That's why you have to rub minds between yourselves and see, where do you improve? What is the country doing which you are not doing, so that you can tap from them and improve on what you are doing.
Mr. Daniel Witt is the president of the International Tax and Investment Center.
I think the key message was already delivered by your Honorable Minister of Finance of Nigeria, that your engine to economic growth is the private sector. So what we're going to talk about are really, how do you set some of the fundamental rules for the private sector, and that is tax and customs policy. And that is how you strike the balance to a win-win relationship between the private sector and generating the revenue to run your government and serve your people. And the challenge is how do you create a set of tax rules that welcomes taxpayers, to bring taxpayers from the shadow economy or the illicit economy into your system. And that's the challenge, and those are the lessons that we're hoping to share between the different countries.
Shadow economy or illicit economy, in plain English, it all means the informal sector. Opening formalities over, the conference got up to its second day of paper presentations. But before then, Dr. Abdulmumin Jibrin, chairman of the Committee on Finance of Nigeria's Federal House of Representatives, shared his thoughts.
What we are doing here today has a link with economic integration. You are talking about customs union, trade union, and ultimately money union. I don't know how long that is going to take, but in between, the issue of tax and other issues that relate to the economy of countries comes to bear. Now, before taking it to the optimum level of integration, we need to continue to relate with ourselves. We need to continue to talk. We need to continue to leverage. We need to continue to share ideas to see how things are done elsewhere. In some countries, you have lower than best practices. In some countries, they are already optimizing towards global best practices. So I think this is a very worthwhile idea. And the chairman was just giving me some tips about what you do year after year, moving to one country after the other in Africa. It is highly commendable. We have so much to learn. We have so much exchange of knowledge to take away from here, and we'll continue to encourage you. And I'm sure Mr. Chairman will let us know at the level of the Nigerian Parliament if there's anything we can do to continue to support these initiatives, and also liaise with some of our colleagues in other African countries. Of course, we have the interparliamentary organizations, so we can also leverage on that to continue to promote your cause.
The paper presentations were followed by breakout sessions, and at the end, resolutions were made and the way forward was agreed upon. Yeah, in the last 3 days, we've been talking about coordination, harmonization. And when I hear this kind of talk, I ask the question, why are we talking about harmonizing tax rates across ECOWAS sub-region, for example? Why can't I use my tax regime to attract business to my country?
You see, tax rate is not the only consideration for a meeting like this. There are a whole lot of other issues which comes into focus. The ITIC is International Tax and Investment Center. It's all about attracting investment, within a region or into the region, but at the same time using taxes to promote liberalization and understanding. And as much as possible, when we gather like this, is to discuss ways and manner by which we can stop sharp practices. As you have also learned, if an investor is coming into the country, he looks at the profile of any country and he goes to the areas where his investment will yield more revenue or more income at the end of the day. But I think the reason why we are focusing on harmonization or coordination is to have a common understanding. At the meeting today, they told you they are not pushing for coordination of rates. Each country should still be allowed to operate its rates depending on its peculiar circumstances. But we should be able to speak in a common language. If we agree that all of us should refund, it's a policy matter. If you owe a taxpayer, give back to him. What that does to the system is promoting trust and confidence. So that's non-negotiable. You can retain, Nigeria is retaining 5% now for VAT. ECOWAS sub-region is promoting 18%. At the point they realize that we cannot get everyone to adopt 18%, they say, let's make it fluid, adopt your rate. But there are coherent things you cannot but feature in your own VAT regime. You say, have a common taxable list and a common exemption list. The reason is, if you exempt a product which I'm also producing in my country from tax in your country, the tendency is that they won't declare here. They will say they are exporting everything outside the country. So you need to block such leakages. But rates, you're fluid, you're allowed to adopt anything. I mean, after all, the essence of taxation is to be able to finance your economic activities in your country and project. So if I don't have those problems, and money is flowing in easily into my country, do I need to introduce another higher level of taxes? No. Do I need to increase rates? No. So they allow countries to decide that.
Tax Matters also posed the same question on harmonization across regions to Mr. Daniel Witt.
Isn't taxation supposed to be used for competition? Why are you trying to streamline taxes across regions?
Well, when you think about the indirect taxes, a value-added tax, a country produces a product and it's exported, it crosses a border. So profits tax, by and large, yes, within your national borders. Although if it's a company operating in multiple jurisdictions, what about transfer pricing? Might you be better served having double tax treaties between some of the African countries? So I'm a firm believer in fiscal sovereignty. Tax policy should stay within the national sovereignty of each of the countries. But you do need to be very aware of what your neighbors are doing, and you do need to coordinate. That will help grow a bigger pie for all of the countries. And those were some of the things that we talked about today, and indeed over the last 3 days.
The next African Tax Forum will hold in Arusha, Tanzania in the year 2014.
Now, what be this? Make it where you. The thing where you said me too much, calculation is where okay.
Madam, me correct now. Now the price be that.
You are playing with fire, so go. Me, I know say they never start fat for picking things. Oh, you want to play me, why you? You want to teach me, Abi?
Madam, now everything with the add back on top. Now so with the seller.
Madam, you dey correct o.
Good day, madam. Any problem? Problem there.
The thing be say una not supposed to charge VAT for baby items and other things wey dey for VAT exemption list.
Sam.
Chai! This one na wayo receipt o. Correct receipt suppose contain the things wey you buy and the VAT wey dey on top. Then other items wey not get VAT, you go put them separately.
Madam, I apologize, You go change that.
Change that. You say we don't know what the government.
To pay VAT dey compulsory. Now government they use to make our life jolly, to collect and pay sharply to government. Is they correct?
FIRS, it pays to pay your tax.
You are still on to Tax Matters, and we move on to our second story, which is the story of the 2-day workshops held in Lagos and Abuja to expose the redesigned tax returns forms to stakeholders. Christina has the story.
The Lagos workshop was held from Monday 20th to Tuesday 21st of May, while that of Abuja was slated for Thursday 23rd to Friday 24th. Acting Executive Chairman of the FIRS, Alhaji Kabiru Mashi, was represented at the Lagos event by Ms. Chiaka Okoye.
This workshop is a collaborative effort to ensure, amongst others, that we receive your input in the redesigned forms, which really is our first point of contact with our customers. At the point of registration, you encounter the forms. At the point of returns, you encounter the form. So it's a very valuable tool that we know as the tax authority, there is no way we can capture all the requirements from the customer perspective, hence the need to have this workshop and have your feedback from the workshop.
One after the other, the redesigned forms for each tax type in the current phase were presented. Comments and observations were thereafter taken. And at the end of it all, Tax Matters spoke to the project drivers.
I am extremely excited. I think we have more than exceeded our expectations. The objectives, fantastic, we made. What were they? Clearly, we wanted to expose our redesigned forms, which were outcome from the process re-engineering that we have done. And it led to us reviewing our existing form in order to increase efficiency, to simplify the information required from taxpayer to be fed into our system, and to assist the processing of taxpayer details easily. So it led us to review these forms. As we've reviewed the forms, we felt it is necessary to take that revised forms, redesigned forms, to the stakeholders, expose it to those who would be using this form, and get their inputs. Let them look at these forms, look at the contents, look at how it will help them in fulfilling their obligations, that is, making their returns to us, which they have been doing either manually or through some other means that are available to them. But these are now the forms that have been exposed for their input. And secondly, these interactions provides avenues for us to receive their buy-in into the new solution that is coming in. And for us, I think, and from the response, for the discussion, from what comments that we receive, we think we've achieved that.
What next? Where do we go from here?
On 24th, that's Thursday and Friday, we are going to hold the same workshop in Abuja to expose the form to the taxpayers there. Although the category of taxpayers, they are related to the professional bodies and ministry departmental agencies. So the taxpayer there, they will also bring in their own view and will build it into the solution finalization. By the time we finalize the form design, we will seek management approval, second approval, because they have approved the one we are reviewing now. And then that approval will move into production of the forms for use before we go live. And I'm very happy with the contributions and comments. They are all tailored towards making it more friendly and user-friendly for them. And the ultimate goal is to make sure the taxpayers' input got into the form design to make it friendly and more easier for them to use. The taxpayer, by the time they complete this form, the body is on the first year. Subsequent years, a lot of information that are going into solution design will no longer be required of the taxpayer. They can just click their thing, all their details will just surface. All the balances they carry forward from this year will automatically surface next year. All the credits they have not utilized this year can surface next year for utilization. All these things are to ease compliance level for taxpayer. The data inside are coded with formula to give a particular information. You can do risk profiling with the data inside. It will aid what we are doing now at the back end. In fact, most of the back end activities will be handled by the system. Subjectivity will be reduced, and it will fasten the way we process our activities now. It will introduce efficiency into our system. A taxpayer comes for tax return certificate. One of the hurdles they meet is the file is not available. So meeting the 14th day deadline for processing tax returns is no longer there. But by the time we implement this ITAS, the documents will be stored in both ways, manual and electronic form. One of them could be available at a time for use. So the question of delay taxpayer from rendering service to taxpayer will no longer subsist.
We look forward to the take-up of the project, which will indeed signal the beginning of better days for taxpayers.
The Federal Inland Revenue Service introduces the tax card to make all tax payment easy for you. Just follow these 7 easy steps. Obtain your taxpayer identification number, TIN, for free at any FIRS office. Get your tax card from your bank. Log on to www.firsonline.com, then register to obtain a password and access the payment process pages. Fill your TIN number, tax type you're paying, amount payable, and period of payment. Confirm the entries on your transaction. Then print your e-ticket and present at any FIRS office as an evidence of tax paid. It's that simple. For more information, visit www.firs.gov.ng or any FIRS office close to you. FIRS, it pays to pay your tax.
We are coasting home and we want to excite the sensibilities of professionals to their tax obligations.
The Oniko and Broad Street Micro and Small Taxpayers Offices of the FRS in Lagos jointly organized a sensitization workshop for professionals on Tuesday, the 21st of May. Tax Controller of the Broad Street Office, Mrs. T.O. Fajriton, placed the event in perspective.
It has been observed over the years that most of us, the professionals, do not file or register with the FRS. And where auditors or accountants file their returns, they leave out their own obligation. The laws are clear, simple, and provide adequate education and information. It is believed that this opportunity will highlight the responsibilities of all professionals within the tax system and ensure voluntary compliance with the tax laws.
The Tax Controller of Oniko Micro and Small Taxpayers Office, Mrs. T.R. Akomedai, presented a paper on the roles of professionals in sustaining the self-assessment regime.
Most of the professionals are either partnership or enterprise. You should not fail to register with the FIRS. When you come here, you file for your client, forgetting the fact that you too, you are supposed to be a taxpayer. So the sensitization program this morning is trying to encourage us as professionals that as we do for our client, we should remember our own obligations too. What is your role to your clients? You must register clients upon incorporation. We have some lawyers amongst us here. We could advise our clients, please, immediately after this incorporation, go to FRS and register. Please, that is part of what we expect you to do as professionals. You must file returns on behalf of your clients, and you must educate clients on their tax obligations. You must ensure clients pay correctly and adequately. You have a right to be informed. You have a right to be assisted. You have a right to be heard. You have a right to pay no more than the correct amount of tax. And you have a right to pay no less. You have a right of appeal. You have a right to certainty. You must be sure of what you are paying. You have a right to representation. And you have a right to confidentiality and secrecy. And you have a right to fair and a just tax system.
Then followed the robust question and answer sessions and interventions from other FRS officials in attendance.
We hope that professionals will turn a new leaf and begin to fulfill their tax obligations going forward. Finally, you will recall that we have always said on this program that it takes only a few minutes to acquire TIN, taxpayer identification number, and that it is absolutely free, FOC. But it seems that there's a racket going on already. 3 gentlemen are in detention for allegedly helping banks to acquire TIN for the purpose of opening bank accounts for prospective customers. Tax Matters was invited to the interrogation session and were able to speak to the 3 gentlemen. What we are going to play for you now are just excerpts from a full-length interview. Have you ever worked for the FRS?
No, I just go to the office. I go to the office I just go to them to generate TIN number and they give it to me.
But Oga said that this is a fake one.
Yes. There are some that is not fake. There are some that is fake.
Are you ready to give me some that are not fake? The FRS lawyer says that this TIN number, this one, give it to everything medical limited, is fake. You say it's not always fake.
Yes, it's not. Yes.
So why don't you continue to get the genuine ones?
It is because of these bank people. They need it, 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 they need it.
Okay. How much does the bank pay you normally?
It's 2,000 naira.
No, be very honest too.
It's 2,000 naira.
The banks pay you 2,000 naira per TIN number.
Yes, some even pay 1,500. But
we are seeking clearance from our sponsors in Abuja to serve you the full interview. And that means that you should watch out for that interview on Tax Matters. Remember, this is a Tax Matters scoop.
Yes, it is a Tax Matters exclusive. And remember, TIN is free.
We thank you most sincerely for watching and we wish you a fruitful week ahead.